Commissioner Bishop, or Chair Bishop, I've started the recording whenever you'd like to start.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Sean. Welcome to Design Review Commission, the meeting of January 5th, 2022. First order of the meeting is to establish the quorum of the commission. I'll read the roll, and if each person would please respond with a present. Jude Carrick.
Present.
David Blockus.
Present.
Thank you. Sam Harding.
Present.
Thank you. Michael Ma.
Present.
Thank you. And Frank Bishop. Present. So we have the full commission here tonight and have fully established the quorum. Next item on the agenda is public comments on items not on the agenda. Sean, do we have anyone from the public with a comment that's not on tonight's agenda?
I'm not aware. Is there any member of the public who would like to speak regarding an item not on the agenda tonight? It appears we do not. Chair Bishop.
Okay, thank you. Then I will close that section and move on to items for consideration and action. First is the consent calendar. We have one item tonight, which is the Design Review Commission minutes of our last meeting, which was December 15th, 2021. Hopefully the commissioners have read the minutes, and unless there's a correction, would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. Would someone second it, please?
Second.
Thank you. I'll read the roll. Say aye, I guess, if you approve. Jude Carrick.
Aye.
Thank you. David Blockus.
I don't know if I'm an aye or an abstain because I wasn't there for that meeting.
Okay, well, we'll pass on you. Thank you. Sam Harding.
Aye.
Michael Ma.
Aye.
And Frank Bishop, aye. Okay, so passed. Okay, next item is the discussion. The first item is the shorter of the two, SC 21-0033-1051 Via del Pazzo. And before we open this up for the staff report, let's see. I want to make sure that we have, let's see here. Where did I go? Turning my page. Before the staff report, I'll ask if any of the commissioners have had any ex parte communications on this project. Jude?
No.
David?
I had minor communication with the applicant when I knocked on the door to get access to the rear yard. He went around to open up the gate, and I went in and did my thing, and that was it.
Thanks, David. Sam?
Yeah, same for me. He opened the gate. I toured, came back, thanked him, and that was it.
Thank you. Okay, very good. Michael?
No.
Okay, thanks, Michael. And Frank is a no. So then next would be Sean. Do you have a staff report on this project for us, please?
Here's Steve.
The presentation will be by Associate Planner Jean. She's here.
Oh, thank you. All right.
So Happy New Year, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. This is Jia Liu, Associate Planner. Before you, I'm presenting a design review application SC 21-0033 for residential additions to existing two-story house at 1051 Via del Pazzo. The project scope consists of interior remodeling, exterior modifications, and residential additions to the existing two-story house. Residential additions includes 262 square foot rear addition at the first story, along with 2 attached patio covers, and 100 square foot second floor addition. Exterior modifications include window replacements and adjustments, alterations to the second story roofing on the front elevation, and replacement of exterior bricks at the first story with vertical wood siding to match the current material at the second story.
Okay, so
On
this is somewhere else. This isn't us.
So on this slide, the renderings for the front view and rear view are provided for your reference. The subject property is located the northeast side at the T-intersection of Margarita Court and the Wildell Pozo. The surrounding neighborhood is considered as a diverse character neighborhood as defined by the city's residential design guidelines. As shown in the neighborhood context map, the existing homes along Wildell Pozo and Margarita Court are 2 stories, and the homes located next to the backside of the property fronting Mercedes Avenue are 1 story. Simple roof forms with most composition shingle materials are found in the vicinity. The exterior materials commonly used include stucco, wood siding, and bricks with wood trim accents. The slide provides the project site plan and the zoning compliance justification. On the site plan, the blue area indicates the first-story habitable addition. The 2 gray areas are the proposed uninhabitable patio covers attached to the proposed blue area addition. And the 2 orange areas are the proposed second-story additions. The additions are found consistent with the zoning development standards. Overall height will not change and remain the same as the current building height. This is a proposed first floor plan. The addition is to add a family room to the back with the covered patio located to the 2 sides. The second-story floor plan, the 2 additions aim to expand the 2 separate bathrooms to the backside. On the front elevation, modifications at the second story include retrofitting 3 existing front elevation windows and modifying the existing roof by adding 3 9-in-12 pitched gable roof above the 3 second-story windows. For the side elevations, no new windows or window enlargements are proposed at the second story. Therefore, there is considered no added privacy impact from the proposed project to the side property lines. On the rear elevation, it shows the additions will remain the same plate heights as the existing house, that are 8-foot plate height at the first story and 7-foot plate height at the second story. 6 windows are proposed, including 5 small windows with 3-foot and 10-inch sill height, and 1 medium 2-panel window with 2-foot and 10-inch sill height for the guest bedroom. Given that the setback from the rear property line to this second-story rear elevation is greater than 56 feet, with additional proposed evergreen screening vegetation along the rear property line, staff found very minimal or no privacy impacts to the rear neighboring property. This is the roof plan. As you can see that in addition to the minor modification to the front, all the proposed additions in the back will match the existing home's 4-in-12 pitch roof with the same composition shingle material. The colored materials board, as presented, the addition's roof will match the existing roofing as composition shingles. The first-story exterior brick material will be replaced with the vertical wood siding in light color to match the existing second-story material. Windows will be replaced with fiberglass framed windows and wood trims. The landscaping plan, all existing landscaping and trees will be retained on site, in addition to 8 English laurel that will be planted along the rear property line as the evergreen screening vegetation. The English laurel will be planted with 15 gallons in size and will grow up to about 12 feet in height and 8 feet in width at its mature age. For the community outreach, the applicant has installed a billboard on site starting on August 30th, 2021. The owner also performed additional email outreach to the immediate property owners, as you can find the email correspondences in attachment D of the agenda report. So with the presented information above, staff recommend the Design Review Commission approve design review application SC21-0033, subject to the listed findings. Staff has concluded the presentation and open for questions and comments. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ja. So questions for staff, please. Let's see. Jude, you want to kick it off if you have any?
No questions.
Thank you. David?
No questions.
Thank you. Sam?
No questions.
Thank you. Michael?
No questions.
Okay, and Frank has no questions either. Excellent report. It was very, very clear. Okay, so next up, do we have a presentation from the owner or the architect for the commission?
Sure. Yeah, good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. I'm the project architect of this project. My name is Yingxi Chen, and the owners, Michelle and Cody, are also here. Thank you, Jia, for preparing the presentation. And so I will just give you a quick introduction of our design. Basically, the owners wanted to add a family room facing their backyard on the first floor and add one more bathroom on the second floor where all the 4 bedrooms are located at. As currently there are 3 bedrooms shared with only 1 bathroom, which don't work very well for them. Meanwhile, they would also like to expand the master bath so that it could fit a double sink vanity and shower tub. The plate height remained the same, and so does the ridge height. The owners have shared the floor plans and elevations with their neighbors. Most of the neighbors like our design and give us their support. There is only one neighbor located on the rear right of the property expressed privacy concern. So the owners are willing to accommodate their neighbors' request at their best, considering the privacy to both the owners and their neighbors. So we propose to plant a row of fast-growing evergreen trees along the rear fence to provide the privacy screening. Actually, I just heard from the owner, they already have these trees planted at their rear yard. So I think that's it. I'm open to any questions or concerns.
Did the owner wish to say anything at this point?
Yeah. Thanks, Ja and Yingxi for the overview. And no, nothing specific, but we planted 9 trees instead of 8. Those are English laurels. They grow up to like we like to keep them under 20 feet, and they can grow up to 8 feet in width. So hopefully that addresses any privacy concerns.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so from the commission, do we have any questions for the architect or the owner? Jude?
No questions.
Thank you. David?
No.
Thank you. Sam?
No questions.
Thank you. Michael?
I actually have a quick question for the architect. On the section or the elevation, or the play height for the second floor show a 7-foot play height for the second floor. But on the section, the actual ceiling height on the second floor is 8 foot. Is that existing, or is it gonna be modified?
Well,
Because the 7-foot play height is kind of unusual. I mean, rare. So I just wondering, can you clarify?
yeah, so the 7-foot plate height is existing for the second floor. So what we labeled as 8 feet is at the center of the room. So it's basically the existing is sloped at near the exterior walls, and then about 3 feet from the exterior wall, it's all become the 8-foot high ceiling.
Okay, all right, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Michael. Okay, Sean, do we have any neighbors or comments from the public on this project?
I have not received any, but are there any neighbors who would like to speak on this item? We have no one requesting to speak for the item, Chair Bishop.
All right, thanks, Sean. So, okay, then I'll close the section of the public comments and we'll move down to the commission discussion. I don't know, I'll change this up. So Michael, you want to start? Anything in the discussion area, please? Yeah.
Okay, I'll start. Yeah, it seems like this is a pretty straightforward addition with a small second floor addition. The second floor proportion is mostly in the back, and then massing wise, proportion wise is all fitting into the context and to the house, existing house. As far as privacy, I don't see too much of an impact because by looking at the existing rear elevation, there are already windows, moderate sized windows facing the rear yard. So the addition is pretty much keeping almost the same size of window and same amount of windows. So overall, I'm in favor of this project. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Michael. Sam, any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm also in favor of the project, and I wanted to commend the owners for their outreach to their community around them. That's a very important element that we deal with on the DRC, and I think they did a great job. So I'm in favor.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sammy. I thought it was interesting how they did that through both text and email and captured everything for us. That was the first time I've seen that. David, any thoughts, discussion?
No, in favor of the project. I mean, it's a minor project. It gives the home a little bit more character and offers the functionality that the owners need. It doesn't have any really privacy impacts in my opinion, so I support the project.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, David. Jude?
Much the same. I think it's very modest and overall an aesthetic improvement, and obviously the functional additions are very, very, very modest without, in my view, any privacy impacts. So I am in favor of the project as well, and I think it meets all the design guidelines.
All right, thanks, Jude. I agree with everyone that's already spoken. I think it improves the house and doesn't affect the privacy of the neighborhood at all. So with that, would we have a motion from one of the commissioners, please?
I'll make.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. I move to approve SC 21-0033-1051 Via Del Poza for the conditions as listed.
All right, thanks, Sam. Do we have a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Thanks, Michael. Okay, I'll call the roll. Respond with an aye if you approve this motion. Jude?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Thank you. Sam?
Aye.
Thank you. Michael?
Aye.
And Frank's and I. So congratulations to the owner and the architect. Project approved. Okay.
Thank you
So
so
on
much.
to the, I'm sorry?
Oh, thank you so much. Just want to say thank you for your time.
Oh, you're most welcome. And enjoy the addition to the new house there. Thank you. Okay, second item we have is an item that's been before us earlier. Let me get the number of this one here. My computer has gone to sleep. Hold on.
It's
okay. SC 21-0026. I know the address because I'm in the neighborhood. Thank you, though. 120 Coronado Avenue. And before we begin the briefing from staff, did we have any ex parte communications on this project? Jude?
No, on my end.
Thank you. David?
No.
Thank you. Sam?
I did talk with the owners at 134 Coronado.
Okay, thank you. Michael?
No.
All right, thanks. And Frank had none either. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Sean. I think you're the planner on this one, Sean. Did you want to update us since our last discussion, which looks to be November 3rd on this project, please, with what's transpired since then?
Yes, absolutely. So again, this is a project at 120 Coronado. It was, there has been no change in the overall square footage. It is still a 2,553 square foot addition at the first story with 1,400 square feet at the second story. Again, as the commissioners are aware, this is on Coronado Avenue, 120 Coronado, near the intersection of Cherry Avenue. The Planning Commission direction at the November 3rd meeting was as conveyed in the staff report. They had 10 items, which I won't go through them here. I'll go through them in subsequent pages. So the applicant requested the commission requested the applicant reduce the plate heights to 8 feet at the second story and 9 feet at the first story. The applicant reduced the plate heights in the plan submittal to 8.5 at the second story and 9.5 at the first story. The second request from the commission was to revise the window fenestration to reduce the muttons and simplify and to be more consistent with the modern farmhouse. The applicant did revise the proposal to minimize the window muttons. This is conveyed in these drawings. They did keep some minimal muttons in the front, but along the sides and along the rear, they have been eliminated. In regards to simplifying the roof form, which was a third direction from the commission, the applicant did eliminate the dormers that were along the front and right side and rear elevations, and they did modify the structure to maintain consistent roof pitches. In regards to direction 4, which was for the applicant to change the roof entry to be consistent with the adjacent roof lines. As the commission's aware, the previous roof line for the entry was a shed structure. It has now been revised to a hip-proof structure, which is conveyed on sheet A6. On direction number 5, to preserve trees numbers 2 and 4 in the front yard. The applicant has continued to propose the removal of tree number 4 due to the finding that the redwood tree is a very poor structure with codominant stems. A letter from the arborist is provided within the plan set on sheet A2.1, and it is provided as attachment E. In addition, in regards to direction number 6, that the arborist make recommendations on the implication of excavation of tree number 1 at the rear yard grading and how it will affect screening. The applicant has provided a letter that has found that the excavation will be sufficient distance from the root flare of the trees to prevent impacts. That is, again, in the arborist report, conveyed in attachment E on sheet A2.1. The applicant is also here to answer questions regarding their responses on direction 5 and 6. On the applicant's response to direction 7, the commission requested they obtain a written agreement to split the cost of the fence and preserve the health, vegetation, and other issues. The applicant has signed and the neighbor has signed an agreement, which is provided as attachment F. That is provided in your staff report. In regards to the landscape and garage structure that will be impacted by grade changes, the same issue for neighbors to the rear. The applicant has revised the grading and drainage plan to minimize and maintain grades that exist at the site now, and it will be in general keeping with the neighboring developed areas. In regards to direction number 9, that they move the house back from the 25-foot setback to be more consistent with the 35-foot setbacks found along Coronado Avenue. The applicant did not modify the setback. They did provide an explanation for not modifying, and it is provided as attachment D, and they are available to explain the basis for why they did not modify it. And in regards to bringing the plans back with 108 Coronado Avenue to review them concurrently, The applicant did withdraw the application for 108 Coronado in December, and therefore staff was not able to bring forward an application since it is no longer valid. This is the civil drawing, which does convey the change in the overall topography, which is consistent with the existing grade of the site, or very similar. And this concludes staff's presentation. The applicant is here to go over their modifications, and they are available to answer questions, and so is staff. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Good report. And thank you for the update. So do we have questions for the staff? I'll come back and do this in reverse order again. Michael, any questions for Sean?
No question.
All right, thank you. Sam, any questions?
Yes, I do, Sean. There were several kind of number of things that came up this week having to do with measurements of comments by a neighbor of the tree measurements and comments by neighbors of appropriate setbacks on Coronado. And then another was the tree permit that was issued in May 13th for removal in the backyard. There seemed to be some question about whether that was properly approved. And in reading the tree report, it states that something replacing that tree needs to be replanted within 90 days. And on my walk around in the backyard, I didn't see any of that. So those are concerns that I think others have expressed, but came to my attention this week.
So in regards to tree removal applications, so typically, yes, within 90 days of a tree removal permit being issued, they're supposed to install the trees. But in a situation where we have an applicant that submitted a design review application, then we traditionally allow them to delay that until the application has been approved, and then as part of the development application, at time of final, we'll require and make sure that that tree is installed. We can always require them to install it prior to development if the commission approves the project. However, we're concerned that that may potentially impact the health of a newly planted tree. And then what were the other items? I know that they raised, a neighbor raised the issue of 90, 108, 120, 135 Coronado having a setback of 35 feet. That is correct. Some of them are slightly greater than 35 feet. It's in addition, 134 Coronado does have a significant setback also that is greater than 35 feet too. So that is accurate, that they do have greater setbacks.
Right, and the other was the letter from a neighbor about the correct measurements of the trees in the arborist report. And so that was my question, is that do we just take whatever the arborist report tells us in terms of the girth of the tree and measurement, or does anyone check that?
No, we rely on the accuracy of the professionally licensed arborists to provide accurate measurements of diameter. It's my understanding that the measurements of the trees are typically diameter, not circumference. It's somewhat difficult for private individuals to measure circumference, but we can always inquire with the applicant and have the arborist update that if there is any issue, but we do rely upon the accuracy of a licensed arborist to provide accurate information. And we do not confirm, we do not have the ability to confirm those numbers at staff.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Sam. David?
Yeah, just a couple things. Sean, could you get clarity on tree number 4? I thought you had said in your discussion that it was a redwood. Isn't it not a redwood? It's one of the other makes.
Let me double check real quick for you.
Yeah, the 2 and the 4, I thought 2 was, they were both kind of the same type, but the one in question was, looking
Tree
at
number
the,
4 is a deoder cedar. Sorry.
yeah,
It's
okay.
a 24-inch deoder cedar.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted clarity on
And
that.
that's on sheet A2.1.
Okay. And then secondly, yeah, but my look on the lots and the setbacks, it appears to me the south side of the street are set back a good 10 feet more than the north side, sort of in general. Does that appear to be the case?
Yes, it does appear in the immediate neighborhood context, which staff is typically limited to the 2 houses on either side and the 5 houses across the street. But it does appear that those houses appear to be 35 feet or greater at times.
Okay, and then my last question would be of the property next door that had a application and it was subsequently withdrawn. Do we know, is that going to continue to be developed? And maybe this is more directed towards the applicant. And are they going to, instead of be going through DRC, going to be using an SB9?
So we haven't received an application from them for SB9, so I can only speak to that because unless we receive a formal application, I think the applicant could probably address what they're planning to do with the site if they are pursuing an SB9 application.
Okay, great. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, good questions, David. Jude, questions for staff?
Yeah, just one quick question. Sean, on the neighborhood compatibility worksheet, it's, I don't know what sheet that is, but it's showing 119 Coronado as 27 feet high. But I don't think that's true. On A10, it's a flat roof structure. You wouldn't happen to know the overall height of that, would you?
No, I don't, but if I have a time period, I can try to look it up for you really quick. If we have a building permit application for it.
I'm trying to read the drawings and they're kind of blurry, but it looks like 21 to 22 feet tall. Would that be a good estimate?
I can, which sheet are you looking at? Because I can scale it for you if you'd like.
A10.
I could scale it for you really quick. Oh, I don't have that.
Actually, Sean, let me interrupt because I have the file for 119. I just opened up. Looks like the finished floor is 100.5. The top of the roof is 122.6. So it's about 99. I would say about 23 feet from the grade. Roughly 23 feet from the grade.
Okay, thank you.
Right, thanks, Jude. Frank has a question or two, but I think they're more directed towards the architect and the owner. So I'll hold that until we get to the next section. So on that transition, do we have a presentation or an update from the architect and the owner on this project, please?
Oh, hi, everyone. This is Jerry. I'm the owner of this project. So I would like to, before my architect to explain more in details, I would like to, first of all, Happy New Year to everyone. I'm glad to meet everyone again in this virtual meeting. I would say we've done our due diligence and have got most of the concerns and the issues on the meeting minutes of last meeting addressed. I would like to remind everyone who is attending this meeting, during the whole discussion, we have city municipal codes together with city residential design guidelines involved. the codes are specific with numbers and with enforceable power, while the design guidelines are with no specific numbers to follow. Let's see, what's the goal of the design guidelines? In the city document, it says the goal is to improve and enhance the architectural quality and design integrity of single-family residential housing in Los Altos. So the question here is, what is integrity? Integrity does not mean we should use the same spacing, same setbacks, same design style, same colors, same materials as the neighboring houses took use 80 years ago. The real integrity means we should apply the similar sense of decency, the similar level of architectural quality, the similar level of premium materials as the neighboring houses had in their times. I appreciate neighbors' inputs. However, I would more appreciate if you have a deeper understanding of the design guidelines and accept the fact that the neighborhood is being classified as transitional and diversified as explicitly described in the design guidelines. We respect the neighbors' voices. We also think the ownership rights is to be equally respected based on the spirit of freedom of this country. I also will, let me take this chance to give my thanks to all the city staffs and my special thanks to the city planner, Sean, for all his hard work and the numerous constructive advices he provided. I also appreciate commissioners' times and efforts as well, and look forward to a fair and reasonable approval from the commission based on professional analysis instead of personal preferences and design guidelines rules abuse. This is all I want to say. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Did the architect wish to speak on the project tonight?
Hi everyone, Happy New Year. Jerry, thank you for your input, and thank you everyone for your time and joining us for this meeting, members of the public and the commissioners. As Jerry mentioned, we have, to the best of our ability, provided a updated design in order to achieve majority of the concerns that the neighbors and the commission had. One of the main qualities we have to consider when we do this type of projects in these, I guess, high class neighborhoods is that the quality of indoor living in those spaces has to be considered. And one of the main reasons we strayed away from going to 8 feet ceilings is because that limits our ability to have, for instance, 8-foot doors. And not having 8-foot doors in an interior space of a home this caliber is essentially is a little bit underwhelming. So we asked that the 8.5 and a 9.5 wall plates be granted for these types of projects, at least to allow the clients and the owners to have the ability to have at least an 8-foot opening for the doors. So that was one of the things. The second thing is the setback. And if you look at this sheet A2 on the site plan, as you can see, there is only a minor portion of the property that's being projected. And that's to kind of create that delineation in order to achieve this kind of 3D front elevation design in order to achieve kind of a fluid design rather than just a flat 35-foot setback. And the majority of the residence is placed more than 30 feet away. It's 31 foot 9 inches for the main entry and the living room. The only projections are the garage and the office, which are slightly more forward, and the garage is set at 25 feet. The office is at 29 feet. So essentially, we try to achieve as sort of a three-dimensional frontage elevation that creates an architectural style and an architectural element, rather than pushing the whole house back 35 feet and having a flat frontage. The other issue we were faced with was the tree number 5 that we tried to redesign the site for based on the last conversation. So ADU was placed on the reverse side, on the right, I guess left side of the property, and we moved it and redesigned it to have protect tree number 5. And if you were to push it back to 35-foot setback, that tree would need to then be removed. So I wanted to address these two issues that we kind of didn't take part of the comments, didn't kind of provide design changes as drastically as everything else that the commission asked for. So we kindly asked that those things be considered with a little bit more in-depth look. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions you guys may have. Thank you so much and Happy New Year.
All right, thank you very much. So with that, from the commission, Jude, do you want to ask the first questions of the owner architect, please?
Well, sure. First of all, is the arborist there?
No, he's not.
Okay. That's unfortunate because a lot of the questions I have are the impact on the trees and the excavation, not only of the basement, but also the grading in the back. And I know there's been confirmation, but it would have been good to hear from him in person or her. So they're not available tonight?
No, unfortunately they're not. But then he did provide his written response to this. So I believe that should answer any concerns, but.
Right. Can you talk about your garage, the design? Are you familiar with the design guidelines when it talks about garages that are forward facing and most prominent? What aspect of your garage design is reducing the impact of garages on the streetscape?
Yes, so there are a few projected and then a few recessed garages in the neighborhood, and I've listed those on the neighborhood worksheet. They're not, could you please specify the question as to what this is in regards to?
Well, the design guidelines in general talks about, first of all, if not having garages face the street, especially when they're the closest element to the street. The preference in the design guidelines is to have them recessed from the front of the building, not projecting forward, or opening to the side, or at a minimum, the garage be recessed 1 foot back from the wall plane of the building. How does your garage design address any of those preferences in the design guidelines?
This is the similar design that we had last time, and this essentially we try to create a 3-element in the front of the residence where you have the garage as one element, the entry as one, and the third element is the office where you have the tertiary roof, hip roof element on that. So that's the way we had designed it originally. And so with these garages being kind of one of the major portions of the frontage of these residences, and especially being one of the main elements that the neighborhood shares, that some of the residences have in common that have the projected garage. this is consistent with the neighborhood that we found. And that's the way we had designed it.
Can you talk about your front setback? The design guidelines go in great depth about being consistent with the frontages along the side of the street. You know, your house, if you look at sheet A10 from the Google image, currently it's, per the survey, it's almost 41 feet back from the street. And just looking down at A10, it seems the majority, and I drove the street twice today, the majority of the homes are set back even further than the 41 feet that you show in your survey. And on top of that, all but one are two-story homes, and that one two-story home is at the end closest to San Antonio Road, and that's a partial two-story home, with the two-story being set well back into the body of the home. So getting back to the design guidelines, how does your design with the current setback address the design guidelines?
So essentially, we are limited to this fact. We are designing this property for the residences, for the residents of the owner, and this is their wish, and we try to portray that wish the best we can. That means that in order to pay this amount of money and end up with a lot with this depth, we have to maximize backyard, maximize a few things that essentially we'll have to compromise on, right? So based on the code that it says 25-foot setback on the front and the sides, we comply with those and then try to get the client the best design for that ideal situation and ideal residence that they want to live in. Now, essentially, the problem is if I make this a one-story, because the neighborhood is a, generally speaking, 50, 60, 70, 80-year-old neighborhood, if I put the same type of house, single story, 4,000 square feet or so on this lot, that's basically going to leave them with no backyard. That creates by itself a really low quality of life for the resident that's going to stay at that house. So we have to maximize the best we can for the design that we can give the client to maximize their wishes.
Well, can we just switch to mass and bulk? Given that you're going to set the house at 25 feet off the street, and on top of that, you're removing 2 significant trees out front, which is also in keeping with the character of the neighborhood, which is a very tree-lined street. How does your design reduce the perception of mass and bulk from the street frontage?
By the fact that we set it back on the sides and make the roof lines with an A-frame rather than a hip, we try to make the form seem smaller than if it was all one wall, as opposed to the modern residence that's across from us. So we try to keep it a smaller footprint on the second floor rather than maximizing the second floor, and by also reducing the square footage of the second floor, that allows me to shrink the second floor footprint and make the A-frame roof forms create a sort of a consistency between the first floor hip roofs that's all at all points tapering in to make it a smaller footprint size, at least perceivably. In terms of form and size, this is a smaller lot. So we are limited by the daylight plane as it is. So in order to achieve everything we needed to achieve on the third floor, on the second floor, this is the shortest width we were able to push the project.
Okay. I asked last time about showing a site plan of the proposed development next door.
Right.
I understand the application's been withdrawn, but I wanted, whether it was withdrawn or not, I wanted to see what the plan for the property next door. I did notice the signage that is still posted out front. The design looks similar to what is currently proposed. Is the design similar, and is it at the same setback as the current 120?
I'll let the owner speak to that.
Yes, and I would like to answer this question. We have options available on the table now, so that either we proceed to a similar design, or we might consider to go through SB9 program, so that it's not 100% clear yet. That's all I can tell you. It's
Can you tell me what the design that was withdrawn, what setback that was at?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
You had an application in, there's signage out front showing a design. What setback was that design that was withdrawn at? What was it at?
That setback should be around 25 feet, but this plan has completely withdrawn, so that it's not
I understand. Thank you.
anymore.
That's good. That's all my questions.
Oh, all right, Jude, thanks. Those are some good ones. You touched on a couple that I would have asked, so thank you for that. David, questions for the owner or the architect?
I think I've got mine answered, or really not answered. I guess part of the confusion is the information that you've provided, for lack of better terminology, is whether intentional or not, a little deceptive, especially on the setbacks. This addendum that you attach with setback research data saying that, oh, everything looks to be about 25 feet. It clearly isn't, and I think you know that. And so, you know, I'd like to get a little bit of understanding of why did you present this to us when it's fairly clear that at least on the south side of that street, everything's 35, 40 feet back.
Let me try to answer this question. And we compiled this research data by measuring each of every house on the street. So we end up with the data. And like I mentioned in this compiled data, there are a total of 28 single-family residences on the whole street. And we can sure that 16 of them with front setback of 25 feet. All the others, I made a greater than sign. That means it's greater than 25 feet setback. But if you notice the year built information of all these houses with setback greater than 25 feet, almost all of them are built in the year between 1937 and 1941, which is approximately 80 years ago. So I don't see the sense that you as a professional analyst, and why do we need to follow the old standard? Like I mentioned, that approximately 80 years ago, compiling to this standard doesn't make sense
Well, that's unfortunately what the design guidelines are, is to have the property fit in with the neighborhood, regardless of whether it was built 200 years ago or last week. Most of these homes on one side of the street, which is probably tied to your greater than 25, are 35 to 40 foot setbacks. So the immediate neighborhood really isn't 25, which I think you're trying to give the appearance that it is. It's actually substantially larger. But we'll move on that. The other question I have is, getting back to mass and bulk, you had mentioned yourself that it's a narrower lot, and yet you want higher sill plates, which give the appearance of mass and bulk because it is a narrow lot. If you go across the street, where there's some discussion on, what is the actual height of that, but it's, at least a third wider, so the appearance isn't as massive or bulky, even though it's a substantial home, that yours appears to look like, given its narrower lot. Do you have any comment on that?
Well, again, I possibly will leave this question to see if I can answer it by my architect. But like I mentioned earlier in my comments, the design guidelines doesn't specifically provide any, quantitative information, and it just provide a guideline. Like I said, I mean, so it should be a constructive one, and it's for a transitional or diversified neighborhood. So this is why I think that, this guideline, we're doing as best as we can to comply with this guideline, but I also hope that, the commissioner needs to take all the elements into consideration. The goal is to improve and to provide, like stated in the city documents, the goal of the guideline is to improve and enhance the architectural quality and design integrity, instead of like running into a nonsense, argument of this, figures. I just don't want to get into an argument, but we are seeking a constructive, common sense made between the commissioners, the staffs, the neighbors, and the owners. That's all I want to say.
Great, thank you.
All right, thanks, David. Sam, do you have questions for the owner or the architect?
Yeah, and is the architect available to have a video so we can see you?
I do have my camera on. Are you guys not able to see me?
No, I can't see a thing. It's a blank screen.
Let me see.
And oh, there you are. Okay.
All right.
Good. It's just nice to be able to see who's speaking.
Yeah, of course. Sorry, I thought I had it on, but I think it was the camera was not working, so I changed the camera.
Yeah, I have much the same concerns as I mentioned earlier, and I'm quite disappointed that the arborist, you did not require the arborist to be available, because so many of these questions has to do with that aspect of your project. So I'm disappointed in a way that person's not here that could answer our questions, and because we do have some pretty specific questions about that. Other than that, I agree with the other commissioners, and I think of it as what I call the near neighborhood or the visible neighborhood, which is the houses that you can see from your house, and the houses that are next to you, what they can see. The neighbors down the street and around the corner are more at-large neighbors. So I always like to think of the neighborhood as the houses that I can see from my house or from other people's houses. So it's a little narrower maybe than what you're considering, but that's just the way that I look at it. I don't have any further questions.
All right, great. Thanks, Sam. Michael, questions for the owner or the architect?
Pretty much the same question. Other commissioner have already addressed and asked the question. Yeah, so I mean, more specifically, I'm looking at the neighborhood, the city's required neighborhood compatibility worksheet, and that has been completed by the applicant or architect. Can I ask now, who completed the neighborhood compatibility worksheet?
I did that one.
Okay. So yeah, based on the page 6, all the front setback, the height, apparently the data, are not accurate. I'm hoping that, it should be addressed sometimes. Okay, that's all I have. Okay, thank you.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Frank has no questions other than what's been asked earlier, so we'll just move forward here. Sean, do we have people from the public that would like to speak on this project?
Chair Bishop, in the comments from the commissioners, I think Jukarik was asking if we had the drawings for 108 Coronado.
He was.
I did have them. I do also have 119 Coronado. I didn't know if you would like to see it now or at a later opportunity when you're having your own discussion. Just advise me whatever you'd like.
If you have the answer to his question, why don't you answer it, please?
So let me move the screen. So on 119 Coronado, as we kind of zoom in, it's at a height of 23 feet 4 inches. The house across the street was at a 9'6" plate with 8'6". And then the house next door, which was withdrawn, is 108 Coronado. This is the proposed design. This gives you some additional, it does show a approximately like 25-foot setback. The garage, I think, is a little differently designed. So this shows you a 25-foot 3 1/32 setback to the street. This is the garage location here. So it's somewhat similar to the front facade of the building here, just slightly projected in front. And then if we go to the elevations, if it'll let me. Here we go. This is the front elevation also, and it is proposed at a height of 23 feet, 11 29/32. And this is the front elevation. This is the rear, and the sides are available here. Did a commissioner want to see any particular sheet again, or?
Sean, can you just show 119 again? And
sure.
Where is the second story located in relationship to the site?
Sure.
How far back from the street is that second story? Looks to be significantly.
So this, I don't know if we have, I can do this quick scale for you if you'd like. This is 1/8.
The garage is at 25 feet or is it more?
The garage is at 28 feet.
28?
Yes. So the garage is at 28, and then the rest of the house is pushed back slightly further. So,
but the second story itself is probably even further back, like 50 feet.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get the scale real quick for you. So 1/8. No, that's wrong. Correct the scale. 1 second. I think their scale's off. Sorry, no, it's 1/8. Let me go back. So the front of the house here is 38 feet, 8 inches. The garage is at 28 feet. And then the second story, if we go back to the second story, then if I go to this wall, to the property line, it's at approximately 49 feet, 10 inches back.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right. A good question, Jude, and thanks for the research there, Sean. Kind of real time on that. So does anyone else, based on that, does anyone else on the commission have a further question on the neighborhood and measurements?
None.
Okay, hearing none, then I'll move down to Sean. Do we have comments from the public on this project?
Yes, we have resident Steve Katz. He also provided a public comment to you and then a comment today that was forwarded to each of the commissioners. Mr. Katz, are you available to speak?
Yes, I'll say a couple things. One is that we were able to work with the owner and reach an agreement that you've got in your documents there, which satisfies us in terms of the fence between the property. We agree that we will share the cost 50-50, that it will be a good neighbor fence. We've agreed on a design, and we are in the process of selecting a contractor, the goal of which would be to put the fence in before the demolition would begin, so that the privacy and safety to our backyard and pool is assured. So we're satisfied with that. The comment that I made today was in reviewing the document that was provided in terms of the setback for our house. There was an error on that document, and I simply wanted to alert Sean that that error needed to be corrected. And I think the commission has noted that. So I don't have any other comments.
All
Well,
right, thank you, Mr. Katz.
May I make one comment? This is Ellen Katz. I just would like to make one comment to Jerry's architect, who made a comment about low quality of life to more traditional style homes. And I would take issue with that comment. So that's my only comment.
Oh, okay, thank you for that.
Chair Bishop.
Sean?
Chair Bishop.
Yes. Yes.
May I ask a question of Mr. and Mrs. Katz?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Are you aware that there is a grade change between your property in the back and where the applicant is proposing to locate the pool and guest house? And that grade change is going to necessitate a retaining wall, a concrete retaining wall. And I want to be very explicit that that cost of that wall should not be incurred by you as the neighbor. So whatever agreement that you are agreeing upon, you're splitting the cost for the fence only and not the structural foundation associated with the grade change and the the foundation for the privacy fence. So are you clear what's happening back there?
We're not.
We're not, actually.
So we, in several conversations with the owner, Mr. Kwok, what he told us was that he had changed the plans and that he was going to not make that grade change, but that he was going to keep it at ground level so that there would not be a retaining wall. If that's not the case, then we're not aware of that. We certainly would not agree to pay for the cost of a retaining wall. Can I put my input on this question from Mr. Couric?
Well, we'll give you a chance to rebut later. So just hold on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
So
okay.
Just so you know, you can look at the elevation of the pool and the pool coping they're proposing. And, the elevation in the back, the ADU is approximately the same elevation as the pool. And then, there is like a 1.5 foot grade change between the properties. It used to be higher. I think they've minimized it somewhat, but there is still going to be a grade change along that back corner of the property.
Yeah, I appreciate you pointing that out. And the agreement that we have right now does not include any shared cost for a retaining wall.
I think you should amend the agreement to make that very clear. None of the foundation cost is associated with the agreement.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you for that suggestion.
All right. Good job, Jude, on that. Thank you. And we'll have a chance for the owner and architect to rebut to any of the comments here from the public before we wrap up this section. So Sean, do we have any other neighbors or members of the public that would like to comment on this project?
I'd like to comment.
I'd like to comment.
All right, Sean, would you moderate, please?
Yes, Kathleen Bendler,
Yes.
if you'd like to speak first, that would be great.
Yes, okay. I'm the rear neighbor to this property, and I have no agreement on the fence. I spoke to the owner at one point who said that he would be responsible for the full cost of the fence along our property line. I'm also not aware of how much of a grade difference this is going to be. I believe it's substantial, but I mostly wanted to point out, and I noticed this on page, I think it's A2.1 with the list of trees. And this is something that gives me some pause about the conclusions of the arborist. Tree number 8 is on my property. It is not on 109 Coronado. And I see that it's incorrectly positioned. And any fence building or retaining wall building is going to truly impact my pepper tree, which is, I believe it is number 8 on that. And yes, I too am sorry that the arborist isn't here because I'm concerned about any provisions. I mean, I'm sure this will be a construction issue later on, but it does concern me that the plan actually doesn't have the correct tree in the correct place. That's pretty much all I have to say.
Okay, thank you for that. Sean, do we have another neighbor?
Yeah,
and the public, please.
And the next speaker that would like to speak is it Kathleen?
Hi, yes it is. Whoops.
Kathleen, may I have your full name so I can make sure to enter it into the minutes?
Hi, yes, I'm Kathleen Johnson Feigelman.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. Hi, let's see. My mother and I are at 90 Coronado and have been there for quite a while, 1967. And I just want to support that we would very much support the houses being further back than 25 feet. I don't know what the setback is at 90 Coronado, but I do know you can get 3 cars end to end in that driveway. So it's a whole lot more than 25 feet. And especially a 2-story house, 25 feet, what that does is that makes it feel like we're in a city. And we're not. We're in the lovely, suburbs of Los Altos where there are no sidewalks to preserve our country feel. And I would like to support whatever makes our neighborhood feel better. And massive houses 25 feet from the street is not it. Yes, those rules are 84 years old, and that is what brings the charm to our neighborhood. And the original house, of course, was 2 bedrooms, not 6. So it's possible that perhaps this lot is a little too small. Thank you, and Happy New Year.
All right, thank you very much. Sean, do we have other members of the public?
I did not see any other members. Are there other members that like to speak on this item tonight? Please state your name and your address, please, if you are. Chair Bishop, there are no other speakers.
Okay, thanks, Sean. So hearing none, we'll close the public comment and we'll give the owner and the architect an opportunity to rebut or answer to any of the questions that have been raised by the public.
Okay, I would like to explain some information that raised from Mr. Carrick. I submitted the hard copies to of the plan set and documents to the commissioners and the staff for this meeting. And originally we submitted a version. I don't know if this is got a little messed up somewhere. I think Mr. Currick's comment is made based upon a not most updated plan. The most updated grading and drainage plan, we specifically wanted to get the minute from last meetings, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, the number 8 comments mentioned this issue of the grade change and causing a proposed retaining wall on our original plan. However, after this comments in the meeting minutes, we get it addressed. So we worked with our civil engineer and get this retaining wall completely eliminated. If you check the most updated drainage and grading and drainage plan, there's no more retaining walls, so that this issue, it should not be in any concerns anymore. Or maybe my architect can also add additional information, if more specific, but all I want to say is that this issue is not an issue anymore.
Thank you, Jerry, for responding to that. If I may, I don't know if I'm able to share my screen here. Yeah, should be able to do that. So as you can see, this is the latest. I think, Sean, this is the latest version that you have. If not, please refer to the link I sent. I resent to you. But the retaining wall, we changed the grade inside our property so that we don't have that issue with the 134 Coronado neighbors. And so there will be no grade change next to the fence that will occur on this property line. And so there would be no liability on the neighbors next door for any part of a structural retaining wall. The grade change isn't much. It's about 9 inches, I believe. And that's with the 2 steps that we have here. And it's just with landscaping steps. There is no concrete. It's just landscape. So
can I ask you a question, sir? If you look at the drain below the pool, the one at 149.97.
Kittle.
Yeah.
149.
You have an adjacent grade of, existing grade of 151.72. That's almost 2 feet of grade change there along the back property line. Is that not correct?
151. Where is the back property line? It seems to be
in the middle of the pool. There's, I might be looking at old drawings, but
yeah, I think you may have the older drawings. If you look at the screen that I'm sharing right now, it seems to be all around 158, 151.8, and this is 151.38. So they're all roughly around the same 151 point. There might have been an update where the civil engineer forgot to remove the incorrect labels. But this is the latest that I have shared with Sean. So any discrepancy will be resolved for the building permit set.
To the chair, the plans you have before you are the ones that I received from the applicant, the latest set. So staff received them on December 22nd. In their email, they advised me these were their most recent civil drawings. So staff did not provide incorrect drawings. These are the most recent ones they provided to me.
well,
Okay,
I am totally,
thanks,
Sean, I am totally confused because I'm looking at one of the PDF attachments, item number 3, the middle one, with, it says staff report with attachments A to G. And at the bottom of that is a drawing set. Is that the old drawing set that was part of the attachment?
So staff provided the commission both the original set and we also provided you the new set so that you could have a comparison, but we did provide you the new set that was submitted to staff on December 22nd.
Okay, so that would be design plans.
Correct. Yes.
Excuse me, and also the hard copies are updated.
If we go by attachments, you have attachment C, which is design review commission project plans from November 3rd. And then we provided separate new plans as a result of the update from the applicant. But we provided you the original set and then the new set.
All right, well, that wasn't clear to me, so I apologize for that matter, but that's the only one. So in general, though, is the house now set higher out of the ground than before?
The ADU is elevated slightly more than it used to be, yeah.
Okay, has the house elevation changed?
The house elevation has not changed.
Okay. So is there stepping in the back?
There's a one and basically a half step here in the middle of the property.
Okay, so there's less concern about the grading then. So thanks for addressing that. Once again, it's confusing to me because I did not see that in the notes that it was the old set for that second attachment.
Not a problem. Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure that the neighbors don't have any concern regarding this retaining wall being on their property or having to pay for any kind of retaining walls on our end. Regarding the setback issue we discussed, I don't want to take any more of the commissioner's time regarding that. It does seem though that the houses across the street do have projections that are closer to the 25-foot setback line. So that's I would like to have the commission take that into consideration, since they are being our immediate neighborhood, being our 5 across and 2 on the sides. 134. It's a little bit difficult for us to measure from the street because it's very heavily lined with trees, and so we don't want to go into properties of next door properties. So whatever we could measure from Google Earth and Google measure from the center of the street, that's how I have tried my best to get some numbers, and the owners have gone and walked and measured stuff as much as they could as well. Regarding the tree, I believe Miss Kathleen, on tree number 8, I believe was this tree, this pepper tree. We do recognize that this is a part of the neighboring tree. I didn't realize that this was on their property, and it can be easily moved. It's not of concern in terms of we're not doing anything near that tree to cause it any harm. Regarding, I believe the concern from, there was another from someone from 90 Coronado, I believe her name was also Kathleen, that they reached this, oh, my apologies to the neighbor at 134. I did not mean that the quality of life would be lower, but the fact that they wouldn't have any more backyard is the issue, because we are a smaller lot. We are forced to kind of go up. And then if I were to, let's say, put a 4,000 square foot home on this lot, there wouldn't be much backyard left. Most of the lots on Coronado are a little bit larger, so that they could afford essentially to have either their corner lot, they could have more backyard. But here we are limited to the size on the width of the property, and therefore we're not able to have as big of a backyard as most other places, other lots on Coronado can. So we're forced to be a little bit squished on both sides, and that kind of limits us to maximizing our ideal design and maximizing our quality of design that we could have. So I apologize if that came across in a different manner, but that's certainly what I meant was on this specific lot, because we're narrower, we're forced to design in this manner where we can have everything the clients requires. Thank you very much.
All right, well, thank you for the rebuttal on that. So we'll close this and open it up now to the commission to have a discussion. And I think I'll start with Michael and I'll work my way back. Michael, would you like to lead the discussion, please?
Sure. I'll start with the discussion. So with all the question and we already have some discussion based on the question and answer. So I want to start with the from our last meeting, our commissioner's direction. So there were the 9 or 10 directions given at the time. And on the positive side is that the applicant, the owner, they addressed some of it. For example, the windows, they clean up some of the details. They clean up the roof lines, which is good. However, there are still some incorrect or information that's not clear or in discrepancy. For example, the setbacks, the contextual setback of the neighborhood, especially the adjacent one. So in conjunction with the height and bulk and mass, especially on the plate height, the overall height, and the setback. That's I think that's kind of been one of the topics here. So I've been studying the neighbors across the street, 119 Coronado, and also Xiang and show us that house is a much bigger house, but it has 28 feet of setback from the garage. And then the ground floor, the rest of ground floor is easily 35 feet setback. And then the second floor is almost 50 feet setback. So, even with that large home, they have more setbacks and lower, or 8'6" for the second floor and 9'6" for the ground floor plate height. So that means like this house, based on all the information, it's still too close to the street, and too big of a proportion based on the contextual information. So, and then with the other concern about the tree, the arborist information, and the arborist not being able to be present here or available to answer some of the questions. So that's I'm hoping that that this can be resolved next time, or hoping to see this come back with more information and corrected information, and also make some design changes to better fit the neighborhood. I know the applicant mentioned about some of the houses built a long time ago. I know some of them are old houses. These houses are old, but the contextual detail, the site context is something we have to respect on the neighborhood. That's why we need to have that the city planning need to have the applicant or architect submit the neighborhood compatibility worksheet. That means that the neighborhood information can be precisely, or not precisely, can be accurately considered when doing the design. We are not talking about the new design need to fit the style of the neighborhood, but need to be compatible. We approve modern houses across the street. We approve, traditional. We approve different style. But at the end, fundamentally, the contextual design need to be compatible with the surrounding. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. All good points there. Sam?
Yeah, very much the same, particularly the arborist. I'm very interested in hearing his comments, or her, I don't know who the arborist is. But that would be important to have the arborist as part of our meeting so that we can ask him those questions.
Okay. Anything else, Sam?
No.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you. David?
Yeah, so I've got a couple of things. Just kind of going through, just to go quickly through 1 through 11 or whatever the numbers are. You know, I think 1 is a pretty firm one for me, that we requested to have the plate heights smaller. It is a narrow lot relative to, and that in combination with the setback of 35, I think makes the most sense, so it just doesn't stand out. We're in a consistent character neighborhood, which means you got to make it fit in a little bit more with what the neighborhood, even if it is older properties, single story or whatnot. I think that's sort of the best way to go. I like what they've done with 2, 3, 4, 5. I agree with, you know, based on my limited knowledge of trees and everything, that 4 probably should go. To me, it makes sense. And it would, in my eyes, make the other 1, 2, 3 stand out more, as they're kind of in line at an angle with each other. And I think with the lean on that and looking at it, it just looks kind of janky. And if we have a arborist report that says that it's probably best to be out, then, you know, unless he comes back and says, well, yeah, I just kind of, you know, it's kind of wishy-washy on that. It could stay, it could go. I'm okay with 4 going. 5, the applicant had indicated that if the house is moved back, that 5's in danger. I think that's more critical to me, to understand what is going on with 5. Can the root structure and all that be saved by having the house back at 35 feet? So I'd like to know that. We've got the written thing. Yeah, so that's, I mean, basically, I'm okay with the tree 4 going. Tree 5, I'd like to know. But really my main concern, and, you know, everything else I think they did. I think the window fenestration looks really nice with the buttons, reduced down to just the 1. But I do think that we should stay with the 8 or 9-foot first and 8-foot second, specifically because it is kind of a narrower lot. And we do have, as we come to learn, that most of the properties, at least on that side of the street, are, you know, 35-ish, if not more, setback. And the one across the street, which is, you know, 1.5 times the size of this lot, the very front of it's 28 feet and the second story is 50 feet. And so, you know, I think they did that probably to reduce the appearance of size and mass and bulk. So I'd like to see it come back with the 9 and 8 foot, with tree 4 gone, with tree 5, some clarity on if we have it, the house setback at 35 feet, you know, what's the effect on that tree? And that's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, David. Jude?
Well, I'm in agreement with most of the comments so far. Once again, the list that was created were comments in general. Some of the comments were of more importance than others. And I think the main comment was the setback and the height of the structure due to bulk and mass. And unfortunately, I don't think the setback issue has been resolved. It would have been nice to see somewhat of a gesture, you know, a compromise. And I think there definitely have been improvements made, but what would have sealed the deal is some kind of acknowledgement of the setback, especially given the character of, you know, the neighborhood. I am just concerned that when you take a 2-story home, move it all the way to the front setback, even if it's not exactly at the front setback, it's the 2-story portion's at what, 32 or so feet back. And then you take out the existing trees that are very mature and paint the house white, it's going to stick out and dramatically change the character of that neighborhood, specifically on that side of the street. And it's going to have a visual impact on neighbors on either side, especially if the other project's built. And I know we're not talking about that, but I can see what's coming down the path, that we're going to have 2 white homes protruding out and breaking that nice street pattern. So for me, I look at the findings that we need to make, and this is one of those projects where it would be very difficult for me to make finding number B and finding number E that this house meets the design guidelines. And if you want to look at that, it talks about the reference to the nature and location of residential structures on adjacent lots will avoid unreasonable interference with views and privacy, and will consider the topography and geology constraints imposed by particular building site conditions. And then finding E also mentions similar language there. So I think if the applicant really takes a hard look at that, and, you know, once again, it comes back to setback, this house would move forward, in my opinion.
Okay. Anything else, Jude?
No, that's it.
No? Okay. All right, thanks. So, as I think everyone on the call knows, I'm a street away, actually, from Coronado. I've walked this street probably more times than most of the people that are on this call. And I think the Design Review Commission has actually characterized this very well. It's a beautiful tree-lined street with homes on the south side that do sit back from the street, and it gives that street a certain feel. And I would like to see that maintained. And I think the direction that we provided at our last meeting, where we, you know, pushed down the plate heights to 9 foot and 8 foot, and we offered up a 35-foot setback, even though the house may be white and it will stand out in that color. And if we put 2 of them side by side, it will stand out that much more. At least if we set it back and we try to keep the trees as best we can, those that are healthy, and having the arborist at our next meeting, I think should be a requirement to actually get this thing moved forward. I'm focused on the same set of points, which is the character of the neighborhood, the setback of the house or houses, if we get the second one developed, so that they fit in. We try to keep all of the trees that are healthy, and we minimize the height and the bulk of the structure. If we do those things, I can see this thing is a worthwhile project that fits well into Coronado. I think if we miss a couple of these things, it's going to be a disappointment for a lot of people. So that's what I think. So with that, I guess I'll turn it over to the commission. I'm for continuing this, as you can probably feel. If someone would like to make a motion or continue the discussion any further.
No further questions from me.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion to move the project forward or to continue it?
Well, I'd make a motion to continue it, but I don't have the numbers in the actual, well, let me look it up. So continue it and have the applicant A have the arborist at the meeting, but then B go back and look at our original suggestions of having, you know, to minimize mass and bulk of the property, going back to the 8 and 9 foot setback or plate heights, and then in addition with the 35-foot setback. So have those three things: the plate height, take a look at the plate heights, relook, see what they can do with that. Have them also take a look at getting the property set back sufficiently to minimize as much as possible the appearance of mass and bulk, and then have the arborist come and be at the next meeting to clarify specifically, I would say trees 4 and 5. I don't know if there are others, but those are the two that I have a concern with.
All right, thank you.
Is that clear enough, Sean?
David?
I would potentially recommend greater clarification on what plate you're looking for. You provided that in the last motion, the last direction at the previous meeting.
So the instruction in the last meeting was first floor plate heights, I think, were at 9 and second floor at 8, or not to be higher than. So first floor 9, second floor 8. Then setback of the property at 35 feet. And then further clarification of at least those two trees, 4 and 5, and have the arborist at the next meeting to get clarification exactly what the condition of the trees are. So those 3 items.
Okay, I have that.
All right, thank you. Do we have a second to the motion that's been
I
made?
second. I second.
Okay, all right, thanks, Sam. All right, then we'll call the roll on this. So the motion is to continue with those 3 points. Jude?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
And Frank is an aye. Okay, thank you very much. That will conclude the project on Coronado for this evening. All right, back to the agenda. Next item on the agenda is commissioners' reports and comments. Do we have any reports or comments this evening?
The only one I have is a clarification of SB9, when we might be getting that information, or do we in fact need that information for what we do?
That's a good question. I think we asked it last time. So Sean, can you repeat the answer? I think the current mayor answered the question, as I recall.
So the SB9 was approved by council. However, we are awaiting the signed resolution from the mayor. And once we have that signed resolution, we will provide that information to the commission. Right now, we do have a website that's established on the Planning Division webpage. It does provide a handout for SB9 applications, and it does provide the draft resolution, but it is not the final and signed resolution from the mayor.
And how about David's portion of the question that will we be involved with SB9? Could you answer that, please?
So the for new houses or additions to houses, the applicants will have the option of either pursuing, well, I should say for new houses, applicants will have the option of pursuing either SB9 or design review. If an applicant wants to pursue an SB9 application for a new house or two houses on a site, then they would go through the ministerial process, which will be managed by staff. If an applicant wishes to pursue a design review application, which does not follow the objective standards of SB9, but instead follows the district standards for the zoning district and follows the design review guidelines, which is subjective, then they would go through a design review application. So you will not be reviewing SB9 applications. You will be reviewing applications that do not pursue SB9. Which will be new houses, and all second story additions to any houses will always be going forward to the DRC. They will never be able to be an SB9 application.
And will we still do variances?
You still do variances.
Okay.
So you do new houses when they choose it. You do all second story additions, and you will continue to do all variance applications.
Will there be any, for lack of a better word, marketing push to make the general public aware that whatever the standards are, that they are approved and ready to go? Or is it just it comes out, and if someone's going to try to do it, they just check with you guys?
I don't think there's a need for a marketing push. I think everybody's very well aware of SB9 right now. And speaking with Commissioner Ma today, one of the issues with one of the difficulties of probably SB9 applications will be the requirement for Department Park and Recreation forms for historic designation. So they will need to hire a historian for any proposed new house that results in the demolition of an existing house. That will potentially result in delay. It may complicate SB9 applications because it will take them a month or two to get the DPR forms 523A and B from historians before they can submit a formal application for SB9. So I would assume as people delve into the submittal requirements, they will realize that the DPR form will be a potential delay element of the application until the city goes through an update to the historic resource inventory, which is something that's on the agenda for council. They're wanting to move forward with an update to the historic resource inventory, but that'll take time.
So Sean, just clarify again. So I didn't know that you just said about SB9 and historical. So what is a historical house?
Well, so in order to have a historic property or historic house, we have to look at the historical significance of the property. You're going to either look at the historical architecture, the architecture of the building, looking at the particular elements and features and whether they're a building of notable interest. Not all buildings that are over 50 years old qualify as historic. Most of our ranch homes will not qualify. A second element is to qualify based on an event of historical interest that has occurred at the site. So for instance, the American Legion Hall will be going to Historical Commission this month for designation, and it's tied directly to the founding of the city. It was part of that. Another element would be based on a person of notable interest of both either local, national, or federal interest that either lived in the home or resided at the home or participated in some event that was of notable local, state, or national interest. So the DPR forms will both be evaluating events, individuals, and architecture, both at the local, state, and potentially national, most likely local and state. These reports or DPR forms do take a little bit of time because they require research on the part of historians to do this analysis. And until we do the update to the inventory, I would imagine it will be an element that may delay some SB9 applications.
So who pays the fees for the historical review?
The applicant. So state law under the SB9, under state law, SB Under state law, the city is required within 30 days to determine whether a property is historic. The city does not have licensed or trained historians on staff, so we're requiring applicants to hire and pay for these DPR forms to be completed, and it is a basic submittal requirement for an SB 9 application. Once they submit their application, if they have the DPR forms, they have their plans, they have their application, and they meet all the basic submittal requirements, and the house is not historic, then they will be approved ministerially. So we may potentially still see a number of applications, I think, because the DPR forms may result in some delay, and that may push individuals, I think, to the DRC.
And Sean, is that a complete tear down that they have to have the historical, or a partial, or at what point does that trigger the historical look at the property?
So SB 9 is only for new houses. It's not applicable to additions. Additions that result in a second story must be reviewed by the DRC. They're not allowed to go through SB 9. New one-story houses can go through SB 9 if they choose that. That again still requires the DPR forms. Additions to properties would be exempt from it. Traditionally, if you're doing an addition to historic property, you have to go through a Secretary of the Interior's evaluation. That would not be applicable in this situation.
Do basements still not count under SB 9?
Ja, she's more of the expert on the language. I know she.
All right, can you clarify your question again for me?
Sure. Do basements count in square footage under SB 9?
I believe our SB 9 regulations is very consistent with what our current zoning code is in terms of the definition. So if the current code does not include the basement as part of the floor area ratio, then we wouldn't include the basement as part of the SB 9 project's floor area ratio as well.
So basements are not included now in that.
Right.
Okay.
You know, I have something to share with everyone. It's very interesting. I just saw Palo Alto's SB 9 rules. Recently, somebody sent me their presentation to the council in mid-December. To my surprise, under SB 9, 2-story, they still need to go through their individual review, not public hearing, but still a subjective review under design guideline. By notify the neighborhood and everything. So that's to my surprise. I don't know how they can do that. But 1-story, you know, of course, goes through the administrative review. But 2-story still need to go through under design review. I just want to share with everybody, to my surprise.
Sounds like their city attorney's going to be busy.
The discrepancy was resulted by the different interpretations by the two cities' attorney's office. That's why.
So another question for Sean. Back to the historian. What's the qualification for historian? I mean, do you guys? I mean, anybody can be historian, or any architect, or anyone study the history of the local whatever. How do you see the qualification?
So we're a certified local government city, which requires us to comply with national and state standards. And so they will have to comply with the National Park Service standards for historians. And that's conveyed in the SB 9 submittal handout.
Will we provide a list of who might be qualified for this, or is it completely on the applicant to do a Google search?
No, we have added a list on the Historical Commission's webpage under resources, a list of all known historians. And if individuals who are historians are listening, they can contact staff and we can add them to that list. It's not it's everyone that we're known to be available, but if there's anyone new, we can also add them.
So Sean, can we get copies of that? Can you send our group these things that you've been talking about, the applications and so forth, and then the list? Is that something that you can send to us?
Of course, I can send all of that to you if you'd like.
I would like to see it.
And I would
All right.
also want to add that, so what was adopted last year for the SB9 is just the beginning of the process. It's not the end of the SB9 established standard. The city will hire a consultant to look comprehensively regarding a more, I would say more appropriate SB9 standards applied to the citywide. So we will, after the signed resolution is received, and we will also send with the points that what we should revisit in this year or next to you as well, so that you're more than welcome to share your comments and input.
Okay.
For us to have a more comprehensive standards.
I'm assuming that any new applicant for any project will not yet have SB9 available until all of this has been signed, sealed, and delivered. Is that correct?
No, the adopted SB9 standard are already effective since, since this year. So they can file at any day this year.
Palo Alto had their first submission yesterday.
Yeah, wasn't it a planner an ex-planner who's?
I think it was an architect.
Yeah, on an acre lot. That's a nice lot.
Matadero Creek or Matadero and Park. So,
Barron Park.
Yeah.
I think from staff.
Sorry.
No, I think from staff's experience, we've hired multiple historians to do. We hired the historian for American Legion Hall. We have hired historians for other project sites. Typically, these DPR forms take a couple of months. So if they don't have a DPR form or historian already hired, I doubt we're going to have a lot of SB9 applications unless they have that available now. So we may be slightly delayed because of the DPR requirement.
Great, thank you.
Sean, isn't there also a occupancy requirement that's going to deter a lot of SB9 applications?
I don't know, Shaw, is there, I didn't see that, but is there an occupancy requirement on SB9 projects?
3 years.
Oh, yes, occupancy in regards to possession of the property, correct, yes.
Right.
Which, how are they going to enforce or figure out? But that's something else.
I believe they, yeah, it's just an affidavit, but yes, I think that's been a discussion with the city attorney previously.
And then lastly, Sean, is the city part of the appeal that's going on amongst some of the other local jurisdictions?
I am not aware of that, but I can always inquire with the director to see if they are. I am not aware that we're party of any suit regarding it.
Yeah. Okay.
We don't like suits.
Okay, so anything else in the commissioner's reports and comments section? All right.
Nope.
How about potential future agenda items?
So I sent an email to, I can't remember who, but I think in December, I got 2 packets. One for the projects we've been working on, and a second packet that had 4 projects that I haven't seen any additional correspondence or interest in. So, and I have the plans for those 4 projects, they were in a separate black binder. Do you know what I'm talking about, Sean?
No, I do not. I went to City Hall. I went to the police station last week to pick up all of the packets. I did find that some individuals had 2 packets there, and other individuals didn't have any packets. So,
Well, it might have been because Commissioner Harding, weren't you on vacation a couple of times, as was I once?
Well,
And maybe they just sent them all and then sent over the new ones.
yes.
So these were for 2256 Deodora, 1396 Maranovich.
Yeah, those are old.
Yes, those are older previous projects.
Okay, so those are all, and then Santa Rita. So those are all done. Okay.
Correct. The one thing I would like to
go ahead.
Advise, and I've spoken to Chair Bishop about, in speaking with Commissioner Bishop and speaking with the city clerk's office, we have realized that the DRC is out of alignment with the term lengths of the chairmanships. The DRC, Planning Commission, and the Historical Commission, the terms are supposed to expire at the beginning of the first meeting in October. What's been happening is that there was an election in June, and the election should not have occurred until October. But this has been going on in 2020 and 2021. What was supposed to happen, it was in 2019, there was an election in April, and it was supposed to be for a one and a half year term that was supposed to run until the following October. And then every October, the first meeting in October, we're supposed to have elections for chair every October. So at the next meeting on the 19th, we will need to schedule elections for a chair, vice chair, which, speaking with the city clerk, you can nominate the same chair. Chairs can hold multiple terms. They can actually hold terms for the entire length of their tenure on a commission if a commission wants to. But the election in January will be for a term that ends at the first meeting of October. And any new commissioners will be seated at that first meeting, and those commissioners will be able to participate in the election of their new chair. So
just clarifying, because I remember going through this a while back. So simply saying, are you saying that all of us are up for either not continuing or reappointment in October of this year?
No, well, no, I think there are only 2, I think Commissioner Carrick, I believe, terms out, I believe, potentially. And we have, yes. I know, I'm sorry to say that.
No, he's coming back, I can tell.
I am not coming back. 9 years is enough for me.
So when are the actual terms start and finish? I thought it was in August.
September.
So the terms previous to 2019, the terms, the city council appointed terms one time a year. And then in 2019, the city council determined that having appointments one time a year was very significant for the council because they had to hold significant number of meetings to interview all of the candidates at one time per year. So they split the appointments to the spring and to the fall. And so DRC used to be in the spring, and they've been moved to the fall. So next meeting, you'll have elections for chair and vice chair, and then that term will run until October. If you would like to know when your terms run, I can send you when you were appointed and when your term will end. I can send each of you that. And
please.
I could do that, absolutely.
And you say Jude can only do 4 terms?
Four 1-month terms. I've worn out my welcome here, so I'm moving on to.
I think Planning Commission will have openings, I think, in September, October.
I am not going to serve on any committee that doesn't have live meetings.
Historical Commission.
That has live meetings?
No. They have fewer meetings.
Yeah, no. One. I like in person. I'm done with this remote stuff.
Okay, so can we move to adjournment? Are there any other agenda items for the future, Sean, other than we need to do an election?
No, there are no other agenda items.
Okay,
Thank
then I'll
you, Bob.
call the meeting. Call the meeting
moved.
adjourned